didn't feel it was appropriate to play anything other than Prince music and talking about Prince today. So that's kind of what we're doing. Just received a statement from Governor Dayton. Prince and his music defined an era. His tremendous talent was matched only by his generosity and commitment to improving his community. Minnesotans and our nation mourn the loss of a great artist today. One who has left an unforgettable mark on music history and whose contributions to the betterment of our state will be remembered for years to come. It's a very sad day in the Twin Cities. I understand that the whole planet is mourning the loss of a musical genius, but here in the Twin Cities, here in Minnesota, it's like we lost somebody in the family. Now, 651-989-9105, we've opened up the phones. If you want to talk about it, if you have a song that would make you feel a little bit better today, anything we could do just to remember, to help you remember, to do this as a family, because that's kind of the relationship we have. And speaking of family, from way back in the day, Michael Knight and I used to work together at KDWB. Michael was nighttime DJ, then afternoon DJ. Then Michael, you knew Prince before I knew Prince.
Yeah. First of all, that time in the Twin Cities, Tony. And by the way, thanks for having me on. You're doing a great job here, and you have perspective. I'm hearing a lot of people, all the national networks are trying to cover this.
Yeah.
And they don't have any idea what they're talking about. I mean, you and I were here when this happened. I mean, remember when Prince did the Batman soundtrack back in 1989?
Yeah.
And I don't think he'd quite arrived to town yet, but I got here in 1991, and there was not a bigger artist in the country. I mean, you could argue maybe Michael Jackson. There
were definitely Prince people and Michael Jackson people, and depending on what camp you were in, you had a different opinion about who was bigger.
Yeah, and all those hundreds of club appearances that you and I made over the years, these guys lit it up. And let's not forget the influence that, Prince had on, the only reason Janet Jackson came to town was because of Prince and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and Paisley Park Studios and all that stuff that happened, which was a part of the Minneapolis sound, right?
Yeah, he definitely made this town matter to music.
I mean, Babyface came to this town because of Prince. I mean, there were people that were coming to the Minneapolis. It was all a part of the Minneapolis sound. And I don't know about you. I mean, we still consider ourselves pretty young guys. I was floored today. I did not see this coming at all.
No, as a guy who's been on the radio here in the Twin Cities since the 90s, I just figured I'll be on the radio until I die here, and I still never thought that the day would come when I would be announcing that we lost Prince.
No,
he's 50. He was 57.
Yeah. I mean, and everybody says this as a part of their generation is that, the 57 is the new 47 and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, he was not an old guy.
No.
I mean, and here's a classic moment for me. And I've bumped around a little bit. You've stayed in town. I was in Boston and I was in Milwaukee. And I'll never forget this when Prince came out and played Loser at Coachella. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember the video. Went around for a while, but then got pulled because Prince owns the rights to his performances.
Sure.
I mean, you remember we would get these video clips, and then all of a sudden they would disappear.
Exactly. And when he came out, and I thought to myself, dude, how do you stay so relevant?
Yeah.
How do you play Coachella at your age? And it literally defined that show, and I think it was 2008 when he came out and did that show. And this guy was unbelievable. I was just there. I was at Paisley Park 2 months ago,
right, with
my friend Lori and her friends, and Judith Hill played that show. Do you remember when Morris Day and the Time were just there? I think you did an interview, right?
Yeah. I talked to all those guys that night. And the thing that amazed me about that night, it had been a couple of years since I had seen Prince in person. And that night, when I saw him kind of hanging out in his little VIP booth at the back of the room, I noticed, and I'm looking at it, and I'm saying, This dude never ages. This guy is never going to die.
Right.
And then, fast forward to a few weeks later, and here we are. It's amazing.
And the kind of stuff that used to happen down there and you and I have spun and done all the clubs.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not 1,000 years old, but we've done the stuff. Okay.
We're close to 1,000 years old, Michael.
All right. So I just have to tell you that I remember one night that I was at Glam Slam, which to me, to this day, is the best club that this town has ever had.
Yeah, there was magic to that club because Prince's vibe was all over it.
Yes. I mean, it was just, he was such a big deal, and the year was 1991. And if you go back, the Twins were playing the Braves in the playoffs. We had the Super Bowl in town.
Yeah.
The Twin Cities was one of the most talked about cities. We're very, Seattle times 3, and things were going just unbelievably. And here's a night I just want to tell you about. I was in that club, and I was being way overpaid, just like you were, for not doing as much as we should have been doing.
Yeah, right.
And
that's the deal.
And not paying for drinks.
Right.
And
that was back when you could drink in a Prince facility.
Right. Right. And we went up to, and maybe you remember this. I don't remember what the third floor was called, but there was
it was called Erotic City.
Erotic City.
He would do those late night Erotic City parties at 2:00 in the morning. You would get there, and he wouldn't come on stage until like 4:30.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
And you know what my favorite part was? I had to suffer through Maite and Carmen Electra dancing in a cage for 2 hours. All right. But here's the thing I remember the most that most people don't get is that. Do you remember what they did up there in Erotic City?
Oh yeah.
The floors were all covered with rose petals.
Yeah,
you remember that?
There was an attention to presentation that Prince had in every aspect of how he entertained people. His clubs, when he owned a club, his club looked like a Prince club. When he puts out an album, every song sounds like a Prince song, even the parts where he's not singing. I mean, that was a Prince thing. That his presentation was everything.
It really is such a sad day for me, and I remember this, and I'm going to try to say this appropriately on the air. Is that and remember this, Tony? We had a couple of star parties there.
Yeah.
When you and I were working there, but I remember he called me over, and I was with women I was out kicking my coverage, way out kicking my coverage. These were beautiful people. And he called me over and said, "Hey, I want to talk to Michael Knight." So I got all the way up to Erotic City. I got all the way up. And because I'm 6'3", and what are you, 6'2"?
Something like that.
All right. So he would never allow you to shake his hand.
No.
Unless he was above you.
Right.
All right.
I've heard that from so many people.
You had to reach up to shake his hand.
Yeah,
That's the way he was.
Yep.
All right. And so I went up, and there was a song, and I'm going to just say this appropriately for radio, but do you remember the song P Control?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What a great song. What a great, oh my God, that thing, you'd play the first note of that song and the club would lose it. Love that song.
Right. And he harassed me because I wouldn't say the name of the song on the air. And I'm just looking at him. I'm going, okay, you're taller than me because you're sitting on a monitor, and you're Prince, and I have to explain to you why I can't say inappropriate stuff back when. And remember this. Remember when Howard Stern and everybody was getting fined for anything that was even close?
Yeah. So there was no way we could use that kind of language on the radio.
Sure.
No.
So anyway, I just wanted to share that story with you because he just laughed at me. I mean, he goes, "I know you can't play the song," but
yeah, he had. You know what? He had a fun relationship with local media, with certain members of the local media. He hated some of you guys, but for the most part, when it was pop radio or any sort of radio where it was music that he liked or he wanted his songs to be played on, he had a fun relationship, a fun adversarial relationship with us.
Well, and I don't know what I know. You did afternoons for a while after I left to go to Boston.
Yeah,
but I know that he used to call me when I was in the studio, but he would never call me directly.
No,
he would have somebody from Sharon, who used to be his manager.
Sharon! Right.
Remember Sharon?
Yes, I do remember Sharon.
And these people would call, and you could hear Prince on speakerphone in the background, and he would be complaining because we're not playing Cream.
Yeah. He would actually after you left, he would complain not because we weren't playing one of his songs. He would complain because we were playing Puff Daddy. Right. He didn't know why the airwaves or Mace or any of that stuff. Why the hell
are you playing Mace?
Yeah, he didn't like it. Hey, Michael, thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Hey, buddy. It's great to talk to you. And for people that don't know, I'm still in town, and I'll be on your show anytime. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Michael, you're welcome on the show anytime. Michael Knight, everybody. I worked with him at KDWB in Minneapolis. And if there's one DJ in the Twin Cities that played more Prince